It's Xavier. You want to see me repot 3 different varieties of bonsai? Just watch on, because at the moment it's -4 outside. Hi, it's Xavier, and yep, it's still freezing outside. A couple more days of that to go, but I'm feeling fairly confident. I've got a little bit of space left that I could just cover a few trees. So we're going to do a repot on this Chinese Elm, which was originally a cutting about 7 years ago. Very, very interesting. We'll look at that. We've got a Dwarf Azalea, which I picked up from my downtown nursery about 5 years ago. Just let it go, didn't do anything with it for a while. Wired it a couple of years ago and I've just started to look at it. Blooms, buds are hard, so they haven't opened yet, so I reckon if I'm a bit careful I may well get away with the repot and also still get the flowers. And a Japanese maple. Probably one of my first air layer successes for a Japanese maple, taken off a Katsura, and it's been in this pond pot for a very, very long time. I think it's time. Well, we'll have a look at it. I'm not sure. I like the pond pot, but do you know what happens? It fills up with scum and mould and horrible stuff, so it gets to be a bit of a pain sometimes. Anyway, enough blabbing. Should we crack on and which one should we hit first? I don't know. Got some interesting choice of pots though as well. Okay, so we'll look at this Japanese maple first. It's been through the wars. As I said, it was an air layer. Give it a spin now. Just now you can see the buds are just swelling, but certainly not. There's a couple there that may start to be looking like they want to open up, but still well and truly in the safe range to pot. It's right bang in the right way. In fact, just when these buds are like this, they're still hard, but they've swelled up just a little bit. You know that energy is coursing up and through. Now that was pruned in November, so I don't need to do any pruning on it. And in fact, the next time I will prune it will be end of May, post-flush harden. So I don't need to worry about any leakage or anything like that. All I need to look at is what's going on down there. I'm going to start neating in the summer or later on in the late May, June, when you get next flush of energy. I'm going to start trying to repair that. But what we have got with this is, I'm not sure. There obviously used to be a branch. Oh, it was this one. There was another branch here that went up like that way. I took it off 5, 6 years ago and really didn't know what I was, well, I didn't really understand about dieback. Now it's died back all the way through here, and that's actually hollowed out a bit. But what's nice to see is just there you've got the live vein on it, and there's the live vein. So it's makes for an even more interesting tree, but perfect time now to repot it. So let's get it out of this. I may still keep it in that pot, to be honest, because I actually don't have any other use for these pots. And the way it leans over, there's something about it. I normally have a giraffe sitting in it, because giraffes and Japanese maple always go together. Right, let's get it out of the pot then, shall we? I would imagine, yeah, I've wired it in. Same technique, always remember, if you've got a piece of wire across, the best way to ensure that you actually get a nice clean wire to pull through is to straighten that. So that's already straight, that's straight, so that should just pull straight up and out. There we go, it's going to come out in one go. There we go. Put that pot to one side. So definitely got some roots and stuff going on there. There's the wire there, so I'll find out where I've put the wire across here. And again, just going to tease this all out. Much more, if you look at that soil, that was all an Akadama mix. Akadama, sound American, don't I? Akadama mix, and that is definitely breaking down a lot. It's there's still some particles in there, but there's a lot more hard clay sort of broken down Akadama. So that means the percolation on this would be reducing, and if the percolation is an issue, that's always a good reason for repotting. And I know for a fact this one hasn't been repotted for 3 years. So I will continue to work my way around that. This isn't an in-depth how to repot video, because I'm sure if you look in some of my earlier ones, you'll find exactly that. And the good thing about maples is that you can bare root them. So we'll have a good look at the roots on this one and see how it's doing. Got a good nice root structure there. Something crossing. Let's have a little look at this root structure. A lot of underneath. Got quite a good mat of basic roots coming out. There's not a lot from the centre, that's all been removed. What I'll do is there'll just be a few here that I'll get rid of. So we'll do that now. These are these ones growing up from the centre. Got a big fat one there. There's one there. I've got these ones here. So just underneath, just basically anything directly underneath the centre there. Okay. And then we'll look at this. We're going to tidy this up. This is a crossing one, just here. I'm actually now going to neaten that up. It's been there for quite a few years and I've not removed it. We've actually got quite a big knuckle here, but in this instance I'm going to keep it. What I will do is try and remove everything that's coming, that's going to go above it. I've got this big one here that's going across. So we're going to get rid of that. And again we've got this one here. So that one's going back on itself, we don't want that. Got another one here, don't want that. It's crossing. Let's see how many we lose. Okay, we didn't lose hardly anything there. Okay, so we just want to move where the knob comes from it. So I'm going to literally go around, strain the roots so they all come out a little bit more radially. Haven't decided whether it's going to go back into that pot. We've got some easy decisions there. Now we've got, what I'm hoping is slowly we're actually getting a plate of roots there. Okay, so we obviously lost the battery there briefly. I don't know how much we lost, but all I'm doing again is just in classic Nigel Saunders fashion, just sorting out the roots. Kennett would do the same, Kennett de Bond. With maples, definitely, because you can get such good results with the roots, it is worth spending the time just sorting them out. This big one is crossing right across, so we're going to get rid of that. Okay. We've also got, looks like stuff coming from in there, but because we've got no roots coming in there, that actually fits in and almost looks like it's coming from the base of that rather than this side. So I'm going to keep that. And often, if you have a look underneath root sets, you'll see that there's more beneath it. So that means I can take off this one here. Now I've got a nice root pad there, a little crossing one there, get rid of that. And I won't go anywhere near to town on this as perhaps Nigel would. But just enough. So what I'm aiming for is that the main roots will be down there. This will all be exposed. And yes, I could wash this out and it'd be probably easier for me to see. Now, what I am looking at deciding is whether I actually do try and grow roots out to the front, but because I've had this growing over the pond, I've continually pruned with a view that there's something here. So unless I put a big rock there, which is an option, but you know what? I'm happy with that. that can go back in its existing container. Right, okay, so same pot, wire through it. Love the structure on this. Maybe one day I'll do something different. I think there is now, you could put a great big rock there perhaps, but as I said, I like this pot. So now, obviously, by maintaining its position, this particular pot, we're never going to get any sort of roots growing really that way, apart from what curves around. But I do like this. Definitely like this pot. Again, it's a much finer root system in there now, so I do want to make sure I've worked this in between all those lovely strands. I say lovely strands, it sounds terrible, doesn't it? It sounds like I'm talking about dessert. And again, what I've done is made sure I've laid them out so that we get a nice radial pattern. And it's not yet ready for it to be lifted high enough that I can expose, although I might expose a little bit more of the roots I had previously. Now I've changed the combination of soil a little bit. If you saw me do my mixing in November on my Soils Ain't Soils video, you'll see them also got bits of pine bark in there as well. This is probably throwback from the Yamadori potting. Doesn't hurt. Now, as I said at the beginning with the maple, I do all my pruning and bud selection in the autumn, when that 2-week, 3-week period after leaves have dropped and all the energy we know has gone down into the roots. That's when I'll do my pruning. Okay, so we're all done on this one. The front of the tree is actually coming into the pot like that. It's quite a narrow pot. We've got a little man there having his cup of cha. Beautiful maple, Katsura, lovely, lovely. I'll do some cleaning on that later in the year, and I'll put some sulphur on that. But yeah, give it a spin. Really, just an example of one of the things I'm talking about here. There's a really, if you look at it, long internode. I'm going to let those run, and then post flush I'm actually going to be pruning back to here, and I don't know if you can see, but there's actually a bud there, and there's 2 little buds there. So the aim is that by June my new growth will be from here. So I'm just using these to sacrifice the energy, take the energy off. Give these a spray. Actually, do you know, I think I've already got little black, are there black bugs on them already? I'll have to give that a spray. So that one's the Japanese maple. Okay, so the next one we're going to be looking at is this Dwarf Azalea. Flowers haven't come out yet, so I'm feeling fairly safe to do it. It's had the wire on now. There's a bit of, in fact, I think there might be a bit of wire dig in there, so we might be, maybe not, we'll pull that wire off anyway. Okay, so wire's off. I can see some major cutbacking happening here. Little bit of scarring as we've gone lower down. The upper branches seem all right. Lower down, we've just got a little bit of bite. Probably the only most serious space is here. It's a rough bark, so I'm quite happy that that'll cover over fairly quickly. We've got some lower stuff. I'm not going to remove anything right now because I haven't decided whether I'm going to bring this one right back down and perhaps try cutting on that. Let's get it out of the pot. That's what the main thing to do is. Okay. Always nice to have a rock. Okay, it was potted in Kanuma and seems to have done quite well in that. But I'll say this now, I've equally done dwarf azaleas and all that in just a straightforward normal potting mix. Kanuma hasn't really broken down much, but it's time to reduce. Definitely do some reduction on this one. Kanuma is terrible. It's very dry on the skin for a start, but it breaks down very easily. A lot of people don't use it, don't see the point. And do you know what? This isn't a Satsi, just maybe I might just put this in a standard mix, or actually I might do a mixture of Kanuma. Because like all things, Kanuma is expensive, so I suppose if you just use an ericaceous, I think it's erication, organic mix to go with it. But you can see the roots on these, very almost cobwebby, spidery, which is why, yeah, they like to be in probably a slightly deeper pot. They like to have a bit of root space, and you don't want to have the roots up against the pot wall. Because apart from that, they also freeze, but they also cook off in summer. We've definitely come a long way. Having a look, see, we've got quite a nice broad base there. I actually quite like it. But just to give you an idea, I'll cut some up. They really are like fine cotton wool. Absolutely amazing, the roots on these, but that's why they're so sensitive to lower temperatures and stuff like that. So I'm just going to cut those right off. Now what I will also do is, because I'm cutting off a little bit of roots on this, I will be reducing the canopy, definitely. I've had a look at the soil. I'm going to recycle some of that, to be honest. In this day and age, can't afford not to. It's a good condition. The only downside is I need to sieve out, probably there's a few weeds in there. But when you recycle, unless you've heated it and really gone to town with it, there's going to be weed spores anyway, and most of my bits have got weed spores in them. So if we're looking at it, we've got a nice base here. We've got a little bit of gentle movement on the trunk there and there. Let's clear away. We're going to keep these. And what we actually need to do, create some space so that these leaves don't die on us. Okay, so we've got some flower buds there. Flower buds come on that. Now, the question we all have here, if we've got a pad level here, I'm guessing that we either go all the way back to this point. You could see an argument for letting this one develop and then taking this one off, but for now, let's do it in. I liked how tall that was. Should we find a pot for it and then decide afterwards? Finding a pot for it was surprisingly more difficult than I thought, and the reason is because of the root structure. You've got you've got a triangle coming out from it, and they're quite heavy. So I've got to go for a round one for now. It's nowhere near the finished design, and I'm still not sure whether I might actually let one of these grow out and actually have that continue up there. So I'm not going to make the decision I thought I was going to make. I'm going to just put it in there. The other good reason for actually going for this circular one is if I want to try and encourage more roots on this side, then I've definitely got a greater opportunity of doing that. So Literally just gonna go straight back in, and again when you put Kanuma in, just be a little bit aware that if you're a little bit too hard on the chopstick, you'll end up just crushing the stuff. I could have secured it going across these, but I found with Azalea that they are very soft. The root's very soft, and unless you've got a very clear anchor point, they can often be quite difficult to tie down. So in this case, I'm going to use the good old-fashioned rock method, which I used originally on it. I'll find a couple of rocks and I'll go right around it. So I'll come back to you when I try and decide whether I'm going to do pruning on it. I just see something where this one, if that comes out, we'll get, I think, rather than take it all the way back down, I don't know. I just like this little bit of movement in there. I don't know if I need to make that decision. Take off some leaves that have had a bit of damage. And the good thing about this is you've seen me do the azalea cuttings a while back, and post flowering I can really cut back quite hard and get some backbudding on these. They backbud really well. I think the reason I'm holding off is because there's some lovely flowers still yet to come up on this one. Flowers back here where I can cut back to, so we've got two buds there, so cut back to that. Looking at this one, right, it's got 5 coming from the same point, so I am going to pick, get rid of the centre one, get rid of the bottom one. Okay. There we go. Now even here, there's bud points here, and they look much nicer. So there we go, we've got 2 leaves there. On this one, just 2, happy with that. No point having that, I know that's not going to be any good to anybody. Following this one along, got this one at the back here. I actually want something closer in. I quite like a branch coming out here. There's one there, that's going to go out to the back. I'm keeping this one here because it's got flower on it, but looking at it from there, if you can see, there's actually 1, 2, and this middle one is the 3rd. Actually, there's another way around this. No, I actually prefer the 2 smaller ones either side than this big one here. But I'm keeping that for the flower, so I have a flower there and a flower at the back. Should have kept one up here, to be honest. I want to have a nice big head of flowers up here. Nice flower there, so 1 flower, 2 flowers, 3 flowers, 1 at the back. Got potentially, want that flower there. Okay, let's get some rocks in there. So there we go with that. I'm sorry, I know that some of my decisions you probably didn't understand what I was doing, but pruning this time of the year is, I was cutting back as much as I could without the risk of losing too many flowers. So I want to have some flowers on there. So there it is. I'll water that in. And again, yeah, I'm sure there's going to be some pruning decisions at a later stage. I may even take that top off, but I don't know, part of me wants that to be a little bit bigger. Branches coming out here. Yeah. Okay, so what I've got next, I think we've got Chinese Elm next, haven't we? Okay, so next we're going for this Chinese Elm. Loads of very interesting trunk. Lots of bark peeling off. Did a little bit of wiring there, got a bit of wiring scar there, but I imagine I'm going to cut that right back. And in fact, this is definitely one of those cases where I will cut that right back. Probably don't need all that. I actually want something down lower here. There we go. Okay. If I was not surrounded by hundreds of Chinese elm cuttings, I would do something with those, apart from in the bin. So that's what we now have. Doesn't look very good, does it? Are they little scale insects on there? They are. Little brown, I don't know if you can see it, they're scale. So we're going to get rid of all those because we don't want them sucking the life out. Yeah, it's quite a rough bark elm, this one. Maybe it's a cork bark. It's interesting because that's all dead die back there. So the actual live vein for that, literally just here. That bit there is the live vein. Wow. Okay. I'll be interested to watch how that stays, whether that continues to die back or not. Okay, let's get out of the pot, have a look and see what the roots look like. The roots on the bottom, like all Chinese elms, they love to develop these great big misshapen bulbous roots. Very hard to do I know people have done it, but it's very hard to do a classic radial. But then I like the character these bring when they're like this. Completely remove, and let's see what we've actually got in here. Got a great big heavy one down there. We're going to get rid of that one. Okay, so that's that. Now it's whether the front. Now the front's either going to be like that, this big bulbous root there in front, or we actually take away that branch, this lovely root set there. Or, which I quite like, this with these roots coming down, and then actually take advantage of seeing the dead wood and just see how this develops. So that's probably the way I'm going to go on this. I'm not really going to take too much off. Just. Now what are we going to put that in? What do you think that should go in? Okay, looking at the pots, I had a number of ideas for this. And already I've had to rule out two of them. First one was I was going to use this tree trunk and put it in there. And I would need to go a lot heavier on those roots. And that's not to say I couldn't, but I think not. So we'll say no to that one. I was also looking at this one. Again, same issue. What I'm thinking about with the root base, that's just going to fold it up too much. Now, Jason Hanrahan of the Bonsai Garden got me this lovely Hinato pot. And I think this could be the final destination. If you look at that, interesting. I might have to cut back a little bit more on the roots, but that's quite an interesting one. I don't know what you think about that. Very dark, so that's anything. There is one other option. I'm quite taken by that, so I'll keep that over here. Heavy, a bit deeper, and just a little bit more space on it. And also just a little lighter green there. And I'll tell you my decisions. If I was doing a final pot in 2 years' time, I would probably go for that one. A little bit shallower. But right now, it can certainly handle that size pot. I've got a little bit more space with it, which means I can do a little bit more with the roots. And I can just watch, see how it develops with the deadwood side. So it's going to go into this one. But Jason, definitely like that. That's where I want the front. I'd love the front to be somewhere near that knuckle, and I've had a look and I can actually thread it through there. So I will already start that threading process. And the good thing about Chinese elms is they often give you those options. Make sure I don't tangle against the root that I want. So there's that little Chinese elm repotted. I would hope that in another, maybe even another year, if it's healthy and it'll put enough roots in 1 year, that I'll actually lift that just a little higher up and have more roots beneath. But at the moment I'm just trying to rebuild a little bit of what I've cut away there. So yeah, so interesting, very, very interesting. And sometimes I found this by accident. As I say, you know, I've got loads and loads of Chinese elms sitting in the bottom of the garden, and even now I went down and had a look, and they're all over the place, and some of them have got really thick trunks on them like that now, and all sorts of interesting shapes, and we'll have a look at those at a later stage, I think. But there you go. So that's a Chinese elm repot, again, my own stock. Very, very interesting. We'll see what happens up here. Hopefully it'll prosper. So hopefully you've enjoyed watching me do a Japanese maple Azalea repot, Chinese elm cutting repot, and a local nursery centre dwarf azalea repot. That one in Kanuma, and both of those two in a standard. Yeah, I'm pretty impressed. I'm pretty happy with how they've come out. This is a long way to go. Again, with this one, it's about the development and how this lower stuff comes on, and it may be completely different by the summer after the flowers. So hopefully you enjoyed this, and feel free to comment. But anyway, from Xavier in the Expression Studio, I wish you all the best. Happy bonsaiing. God bless. Cheers.